Hi, welcome back to my channel. My name is Rachel, that is the R in the RK Stumblingbear, and I am a reader and a writer. And this video is about the novellas that I have read for the Nebulas. And I've ordered my thoughts from my least favorite to my favorite. And what I've done is I have recorded my thoughts at the time I have read each of the novellas. So when I recorded them, I didn't know where they were going to rank on everything yet. I hope you enjoy. I am back after finishing The Tusks of Extinction by Ray Naylor. Since starting this, the nominations for the Hugos were announced as well, so this is not only a Nebula nomination, it's a Hugo nomination. So this clip is going to be probably in my what I thought of the novellas that were nominated for the Hugos. So if you watch my videos, guess what? You get to see me talk about this twice. The premise of this is mammoths have been resurrected, running wild on the steppes in like Siberia, and they had to be taught how to be mammoths because even elephants have in the wild have gone extinct. There's some game hunts or preserves that are heavily guarded because poachers are still trying to kill off all the elephants as well. And in order to teach the mammoths how to be, the Russian government had downloaded the consciousnesses of many activists and like influential intellectual people, and one of them was Demira, who is, I would say, the central character. So Demira's consciousness has been downloaded into a mammoth brain, mammoth body, to teach the mammoths how to be mammoths, based off of her work with elephants. This book does use extensive flashbacks as well as things that are happening in the present of this book. And I, for one, am not someone who likes flashbacks in my books typically, but Naylor makes this work. I guess this is part of how elephants interact with the world, is like a scent and then their memory chains. And so that's what you're seeing is like, oh, a scent of fire. And then, Demira remembers talking to Wagumunda, who was another park ranger in the elephant preserve, as a kid, a neighbor's house had caught on fire. So just like a chain of memories going through. And Demira is very retrospective, reflective. She's a consciousness inside of a mammoth. And at this time that this is happening, we've had poachers who have decided to go hunt mammoth tusks, and Demira and her matriarch group have stumbled upon 2 males that have been killed and their tusks removed. Demira is like, oh, hell no. And so leads her mammoths to go hunt down the poachers and kill them, which is not typical mammoth behavior. At the same time, in order to fund this preserve, the doctor who set all of this up has come to the conclusion that there will have to be some high-level rich people hunting for tusks. They've already made it so they can only hunt males, they can't hunt the females. And they're bringing like the first guy there. Had an auction for him to come, and he's brought his husband. And his husband is very conflicted, especially because this is a side of I'm going to say Vladimir, this is a side of his husband Anthony that he has never actually seen before. He knows that Anthony hunts, but he's never actually experienced it. So this is his first time seeing the hunting side of Anthony. So we also get to see the conflict from the doctors, like, I created this preserve, but if I let this guy hunt a mammoth and kill one, then the money that he bid will protect the preserve for this amount of time. They have Demir, who's like, oh, hell no, you are not hunting us for any reason, because it's going to lead to poachers trying to cause extinction yet again. We also have a viewpoint of a young boy named Sayed how do we say this? Most of these names are Russian because this is happening more that time. Svyatoslav, I probably butchered that. He's actually a son of the poachers and helped kill the 2 mammoths that were found at the beginning, but he was not with the rest of them when the mammoths came and killed everyone else, so he has escaped, and since then has become conflicted about what they did. So when the mammoths find him again, he basically is like, hey, let me help you put a stop to this because there has to be a better way. And yeah, so it's really the conversion of these 3 points of view. And there's a lot of environmentalism. Again, in a lot of flashbacks, you get conversations with other characters who are talking about how they see the world just taking and taking and taking, and what are the actual effects of that. So I would say probably could work for a climathon if that's a readathon you like. Overall, I like the book. I like the message, but the flashbacks really kind of detract for me, personally. I am back to talk about The Practice, The Horizon, and The Chain by Sofia Samatar. When I first finished this, I was not quite sure how to talk about it, so looking at some of the reviews, I saw somebody refer to it as sci-fi mythology, and I think that is a perfect description of this. This is a book that primarily is talking about class, and in it we have the boy and the woman who are really the main characters, and that is what they're called. You are not actually told their names. The boy is from the hold, where people are considered basically not people, and they are chained to one another. He has been making drawings with the help of his chain gang. They've been allowing him to do this, and a doctor from above has come down and he's seen it, and the boy gets recommended for a scholarship to the university for people who are chained. And the woman is someone who is from that university. She is somebody who is in the arts, because that's why he's brought up, is for his drawing specifically. And you get a lot of commentary on academia, but it's academia as it stands in for bigger bureaucracy in the world. At least that's how I see it. And the woman, her father had been a person from the hold many years before, and she felt like she had never really understood him. The only people who are named in this are who the boy calls the weightless. Now, the woman is part of the ankleted, is what they call them. In hold slang, it's Blue Leg. They have like an ankle monitor on them. And at first this is considered like better than the hold because you have freedom of movement, but you're still being monitored. And later you get to see how that device still traps and confines. And then we get to see the boy as he's trying to learn and adapt to a university, a position he did not apply for, had no clue what was there, and at the same time he's trying to put together what he's learned from the prophet, somebody who was in his chain gang. And this is kind of where the mythology comes in, and where we get the practice in the title. And you get to see the futility of a caste-based system where people think they can move up in life, but in reality can't. And where people are not considered to actually be people, but commodities, things to be thrown away and used up at the whim of others. I would also say the woman's journey. We get to see how change really can't be affected by being part of the system. They talk about where she tried to get, so she's a college professor now, and there's 2 departments. There's the Department of Older Knowledge and the Department of Newer Knowledge, and she kind of led the charge to get those titles, because before it had been the Department of Old Knowledge and the Department of New Knowledge. Now what she'd really wanted the departments to be called was the Department of Arts and the Department of Science. but people didn't want to change that far. And this very small change was lauded as great. Her mentor, who is one of the waitlist, because he doesn't have a ankle monitor, it's like, oh, you are doing great things and making real change, when in reality, she's not. And so her journey is kind of realizing how much the things that she thought mattered don't, and what she had been taught was wrong. So there's a lot of commentary in this one, and I can completely see why it was nominated for the Nebulas, and actually was nominated for the Hugos as well. But I don't think this is going to be everyone's cup of tea. Because of how the mythology comes in, it kind of feels then like there's magic going on. Hi, I am back because I finished the Dragonfly Gambit by A.D. Sui, I'm not sure how you say that. This is one of the novellas that was nominated for the Nebulas, and I found this cover very compelling. It doesn't tell you a whole lot, but it screams sci-fi mechanic sort of thing. And this is kind of like a cat and mouse game between our main character Inez and the ruler that she has to report to called Ines. That's really as much as I could really say without spoiling the plot on this one. I think I really love the twist at the end of how Inez has worked with technology. I will say that. I'm back because I finished Lost Ark Dreaming by Sui Davies Okungbowa, and this is actually the last novella for the Nebulas that I've read. I know that this isn't going to be going up in that order necessarily, in the order I read them. And this is a somewhat near future sci-fi where the world has flooded again. And this is set right outside of Old Lagos, Nigeria. There was a company that built these 5 towers on a made island. And now 4 of those towers have crumbled, and everybody has been crammed into the last one, which is called the Pinnacle. It's supposed to be like they used to call them the fingers because, you have the different size fingers. And this follows 3 different characters, Yikini, Ngozi, and Tuoyo. And Yikini is an analyst who wants to be like a field agent, and she just wants to protect those in the tower and help make their lives better. Ngozi is a former refugee who has been adopted into a higher status, like the higher up on the tower you are, higher status class you have. And he's working for the government of the Prime, who is a descendant of the original tower creators. And then we have Tuoyo, who is a widow working in what they call the lowers. The lowers is the parts of the tower that are underneath the water. And she's an engineer. She used to live in what they called the midders, so the middle section, until her wife died. And it goes into more in the book on that. I thought this was an interesting, world concept, but it definitely takes a turn from the science fiction aspect to more of injustice. I don't even know if colonialism is the right word. Caste, government, oppression. That is more like the message and theme of this book. It's just set in a dystopian universe and how they all decide to handle that. Because I have finished The Countess by Suzanne Palumbo. Sorry if you hear the heater going off. It's cold today. This is a retelling of The Count of Monte Cristo, but set in space, and then the main character is an ex-Terran, Antillean. It follows the same premise. They're being promoted in their merchant marines, and then somebody else conspires to get them convicted of treason and sends them to prison. In prison, they decide on revenge, get the opportunity to escape, and then enact their revenge against the empire that convicted them wrongfully. I have read different short stories by Palumbo, and she always has a Caribbean flavor to her stories. This one especially talks a lot about food and the food culture. I thought it was interesting that in this feature, the Antillians were on Earth, and then they're called Exterran because they were brought from Earth by this empire to then mine and work for subsistence with the veneer of self-government. And that even in the future that Palumbo sees, certain groups still are going to be exploited. Which, to be fair, our world history has shown that multiple times, no matter what. So, going into space, I can see that happening to groups still. I really like the flavor of this. The characters that we're introduced to, you get a sense of a greater depth to them. My only real complaint is this is a novella, and I really feel like this could have been expanded into a novel. We could have been given more depth. This is really just pieces of the Countess's life, starting off when Verica is in the Merchant Marines. You get to see a little bit of her life on Invicta, a little bit of her relationship with her mother and her lover Alba. And then there's the trial, and then she's in prison, and then they show how she gets out of prison, and then meeting up with ex-revolutionaries of a failed revolution from before. And then you get her becoming wealthy, and then bringing and uniting the other Antillian planets together to bring the empire to negotiations. So you're not really getting a full view of everything that's happened. It's just like, oh, she did this, and now she's going to go do this. And then you skip forward, things are happening. She has a network set up already, and I like getting to see that in my stories. So that's why I'm saying is I would have loved for this to have been expanded into a novel. I would have eaten that up, especially how does Verica build those alliances and relationships with the ex-revolutionaries? How does she know the Exterran Antillians are going to support, bringing the empire to negotiations? There's a lot that you don't see, and to be fair, it's not needed for the novella, but I, as a sci-fi reader, like that information. So yeah, I would have liked this to have been longer. However, again, it's a really good book as is. And if you're looking for something short that's a standalone, pick this up. Especially if you like having all the references to different Caribbean foods, you have this in spades. I have finished The Butcher of the Forest by Premi Mohammed. And this is a dark fairy tale. Though to be fair, when fairy tales were originally started, they were for adults, and they were dark. They weren't the sanitized Disney versions that we have nowadays. And Premi Mohammed has definitely channeled that in this book. So if you like older fairy tale styles that are dark, those sort of things, then you'll like this. The premise of this is a woman named Varys is pulled from her home by the tyrant soldiers and sent to find the tyrant's children, who have gone into the North Wood, which everyone in the village knows you do not do, because if you go into the North Wood, you do not come back. However, Varys has been in there once and retrieved a child once before and come back out alive. So that is why the tyrant is sending Varys in again. The Elm Ever, as they call it in the book, to me is 100% fae. Not the romantasy fae that you see, but actual fae, where they have their own rules and own moral compasses, and you have to live by their rules while you're there, or you're gonna die. And it's very easy for things to kill you, for you to offend somebody. I would not say that this has a happy ending, but I would say that the ending of this is satisfying. At least it was for me. And this isn't my typical go-to story. At least not anymore. I think at one point of time it was, but I've moved on from this sort of fantasy. And then Premia Muhammad, she's always great about her compelling writing. When I think back to it, I think lyrical, but when I'm reading it, that's not like the impression I'm getting. It's not hard, it's very accessible. And even though you're following only one person's point of view, you're present with her the whole time. And the choices that she makes sense to you. And there's a theme of this talking about monsters. What is a monster? Who is a monster? How is a monster created? Enjoyed this, but I don't think it will be for everyone. If you have read any of these novellas, I would love to know your thoughts and opinions on them. If you haven't and one is now interesting, I would love to know that as well. Please let me know down in the comments. If you enjoy this, please like and subscribe. I primarily do sci-fi and fantasy related reading, but I do read widely, so thank you and have a great day.